Welcome to the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity Podcast. Join Stewart Heath for down-to-earth conversations with top professionals, entrepreneurs, and leaders who have a story to tell. Let's get rolling.
Hello, everyone. This is Stewart Heath, your host, back with another episode of the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity Podcast. We appreciate you taking the time and joining us today, and we are blessed to have Mr. Sean Agnew join us today, taking some time out of his very busy schedule to share some of his wisdoms that he's gained over his life and career. Sean, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Stuart. Appreciate the opportunity.
Sir, so I look forward to hearing your responses to our questions. When you think back over your career, is there a time that you would say was really a game changer that put you on the path to where you're here now, perhaps as opposed to where you thought you might be, when you were like younger?
Well, I think there's a few, but the one that always sticks in my head most was when I had some very, very wildly successful year and ended up following some very, very bad advice. And I made more money than anybody else I had known who was even twice my age at the time, and spent more money than anybody I know twice my age at the time, and had to start all over. So obviously at the time, it didn't feel like it was a great thing. Now looking back on it, I am incredibly grateful for that, because at the end of the day, I know I've seen bottom. So no matter what happens, it's always upside from there. And that's always been something that I remember and has stuck with me.
Yeah, my college roommate used to have a saying, it says, you can't fall off the floor. When you're at the bottom, it's actually a pretty good place to start. And it's always good to be grateful. When you're on the other side, it ain't a whole lot of fun and not much to be grateful when you're in the middle of it. So
no, when you're begging to sleep on people's couches as a grown adult, it's not fun. But it does a few things. It shows you what resolve you have, number one. Yeah. It shows you who your true friends are. Unfortunately, we live in a society right now where everything is about optics.
Yep.
Versus it being about what really is in somebody's heart. And so you really get to sort out very quickly the people that say they would do something for you versus those people that will really do something for you. And then you learn to hold those people close. So that was great.
Yeah, that's good. Do you mind sharing how old you were when you went through this experience?
For the first time or the second time?
Whichever one you want to refer to.
So the first time, I had just gotten out of the military, so I was 22 when that happened. Sorry, 23 the first time.
Yeah, wow. That's pretty young. Yeah, and even younger by today's standards. My wife has an expression. She says 18 is the new 12. Yeah, we've got 8 kids across the whole spectrum, and it's like, I don't know where their heads are at. That's not where we were at when I was 18,
Yep.
And most of us at this age, we can all nod. So, yeah, we don't get it either. But
yeah, but the problem with those two is there are kids. So
yeah, I know.
Ultimately, we caused it. So
yeah, I don't know what we did. Yes, you're exactly right. Not trying to throw blame, but yeah, don't know what I did though. Yeah. All right. Next question. It's kind of similar, and you may have already touched on this, but everybody hits a bump in the road from time to time. And maybe you want to talk about the same situation, but deal with what we're looking for here is tell us how you got through it and the steps that you took when things didn't pan out when the way you thought they would.
Yeah, I had a different scenario. I had a situation mid-career where I had a wonderful opportunity to be a chief sales officer for an organization. I'd been referred by a previous CEO that I had helped with his company and moved my family to a different state, changed schools, did the whole nine. and unfortunately had some changes that happened with the CEO, and ended up literally in the course of an afternoon losing that opportunity, which was even a little more fraught with, because that particular opportunity came with them paying for my living expenses, my home, my car, everything else. So it wasn't just your normal, hey, you lost your job. It was, hey, we got to figure out where we go in the next 48 to 72 hours.
Oh my God.
In a state we don't live in. So it definitely was a challenge, for sure. I think the lesson from that for me, and how, I mean, it was overcome by the help of a lot of people, and especially my spouse, who has gone through a lot with me and was incredibly strong, and could have panicked and done all that stuff that we normally do instantly, but didn't. But I think the other part was that I tried to take it and look at it from not a bigger picture view. Because I think sometimes when, at least from me and my personality, when I've done that, I get so wrapped up in the end result, I miss the first step. So I'm already trying to pole vault, and I haven't even stepped 1 foot toward the line. So in that instance, I think the thing that really helped was just saying, you know what, let's focus on one thing. Like, what's the one thing right now that we have any control over, that I can make some decisions on, that I can help my family with, and then we go to the next thing. And that's how we did it. And it ended up working out, as most things. Usually we don't know, the real plan. And I think the problem is we think we know the plan and we think we're in control, and really we're not.
We're not.
I always think that I'm the leaf in Forrest Gump in the movie, the feather, right? That's just floating on the wind. It's like, the wind's going to come. I don't know which direction, I don't know where it's going to push, right, but I'm the feather. So you just got to be loose and nimble. So
yeah. Sometimes God just says, hey, watch this. So that's the way I referred to COVID. Everything was cooking along, great economy. Everybody's just, this is the plan we're going to, and then I just said, God picked up the world like a snow globe and just said, watch this. And everyone, we just want to get back to normal. Remember, we just want to get back to normal. And ain't nothing going back to the way it was.
Absolutely. That's a great analogy. I mean, the thing, I'm a history buff, right? So if people just study history, like there's a time frame of frequency, right? And it continually happens in our development as human beings, that we get full of ourselves. It's something out of our control.
Americans?
Shocking, right? Shocking. So yeah, that's a good analogy and a good point. And you're absolutely right. There'll be the next thing. And that, I think that's the thing we all got to take from that is, to your point, what is normal, right? It's getting satiated and getting to the point that we're complacent. And once we get to that, anything happens. It doesn't have to be something as dramatic as COVID. It can be anything that takes us out of that realm, which should make us stand back and go, hey, we need to stop being complacent and just take it for what it is. Yeah.
Right. What branch of the military were you in?
I was U.S. Army.
Okay. And through any of these ups and downs, did you ever think, well, I'll just go re-up?
Honestly, no, because I originally didn't want to go into the military, quite frankly. I was going because of a situation with my parents were going through divorce, and I played sports and was looking to go play sports. And quite frankly, my mom, who is incredibly intelligent, knew that I didn't have the discipline to be able to go off and do that. I could have gone, I had offers, I could do all that stuff, but she was afraid of where I was going to end up if I was kind of let loose in that environment. So I was steered toward the National Guard. And then after going through basic training, I realized, hey, you know what? I kind of like this discipline thing. It's not too bad. And then I ended up going in full time into the military. And at the time, I loved my experience, but then I got caught up in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and wasn't able to get out. And then, just like business, we all, people don't quit jobs. They usually quit leadership, right? So I had some amazing leaders to begin my military career. And then toward the end, I had some leaders that I didn't quite care for. And that sort of soured me, and that took me to a place where once I was able to exit, I exited. But I will forever be grateful for that opportunity to serve the country and the things that I learned, and just the discipline that I still carry today because of that, especially as a young person.
Yeah. Well, your aura, just comes across as a former military person, squared away, I guess is the term. So yeah, you can tell you're still carrying it.
Well, I appreciate that. Tell my mom that.
Well, maybe she'll believe me, and you can tell my mom some things.
I'll do the same. Absolutely.
So shift gears a little bit. How do you tackle learning new things? Sometimes I hate learning new things, but that's not really true. I hate learning the things that I'm forced to learn rather than things that I really want to spend time learning. Yeah, I'm a CPA. I get continuing education every year. I love doing that. But then again, some other software company decides, hey, we've just changed everything. No good reason. We just decided to change everything. That's what I hate learning, stuff like that, to keep going forward. How do you approach staying current professionally in all the different aspects that involves?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I'm very similar. I think, a lot of, and I think, this is my opinion. There's no data to back it up that I've read, but that I think men are generally like that anyway. I think that's why we don't like to read directions when we open up stuff, So I'm the same as far as that goes, but I've always felt like I was a lifelong learner. I think when I was younger in school, I didn't realize that because I had enough intelligence that I didn't want to follow through with everything the teacher wanted me to go through with the lessons once I got it, right? I wanted to move on to the next thing. And fortunately, knock on wood, I was okay enough to get decent grades. If I really had applied myself, I could have done way better. But I found out after I got out of school, it was that I really did like learning new things, right? And I think that's why if I look back in my career, I've worked in everything from telecom to healthcare. And I think part of that is because I really enjoyed learning those different things, right? When I was looking at my job and things like that. On a daily basis, I mean, I read, quite often. I listen to podcasts when I'm in the car. I take that time when I'm in the gym. I listen to music half the time, and half the time I listen to other informational things. But yeah, I'm always trying to learn something new every day. And the other thing is, I was taught by one of my mentors early on that most people, when they have conversations, they're really focusing more on talking than they are listening. And so I've always tried to mentally put it in practice that I should definitely work on more on understanding the people that I'm talking to versus being understood. And when I do that, I find I learn amazing little nuggets every single day from everybody I interact with. So that's always my mantra. And I feel like if you're not learning, I mean, you really, it's probably time to hang it up, and you're at the end of your line anyway, whether that's business, whether that's personal. Heck, I was just watching a seminar today about relationships, how to be a better husband, because, Lord knows I can do better on that front. So, those are things I always focus on. And I think, is something that does everybody good, right? It does everybody around you good. It does everybody in your circle, your family, your friends, your business associates. Heck, the people you come in contact with, right? I read something once where it talked about the most beautiful thing you can ever put on as a human being is a smile, right? And I remember reading that going, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's so simplistic, but it's so true. So yeah, learning to me is just, it's essential. It's like breathing. If I'm not learning, I should be breathing. Right.
That's a great way to put it. It really is. If you're breathing, you better be learning. Yeah. I love that. So any recommendations on your favorite podcasts?
I mean, I like so many of them. I'm a big, recently I've been a big Alex Hormozy guy. And then, I also try to balance the business stuff with some, spiritual things as well. So yeah, there's just so many. I hate to even target because I probably have about 10 in rotation now. But yeah, I mean, there's just, the great thing we have right now is we have so much access, right? I mean, we are, somebody, I've heard other people say that so many times. I think it's so true that we're just in a time where we have more information, but less understanding.
Yes.
So, it's an interesting time. And especially, we were talking about people in our age group and talking about the younger generation. I think that's the challenge right now for them, is being able to discern and really focus on things, because they're so inundated. I can imagine being 20 years old right now.
Yeah.
And having access to that much stuff. I wouldn't even know where to shut it off.
Yeah. One of my most frustrating things is when one of my, teenage or 20-year-old sons, they will have spent hours and hours and hours in their room researching something, about a car or maybe it's something like that. And they come up with, and then find us, then they come out of the room and declare, I need to take my shot because it's going to cost $1,500 to go fix this car, and blah, blah, blah. And they explain the situation to you, and it turns out it's a fuse. And we run down to the auto parts store, spend 35 cents and fix it. And I just said, and you try to make you're still not communicating. You're trying to say, you got all the information in the world, but you don't have perspective and or the life experiences. That's not their fault to have perspective.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, I would have said, "Hey, Dad, help me figure this out."
Yeah.
That's the step they're skipping because their life is in that digital device that they've got. They ask YouTube, and it's not the people on YouTube's fault. There's just this interpretational. Yeah, I love that. All the information in the world, but we don't understand anything.
No, yeah, and you talked earlier about not putting blame, and it's not about blame. It's about I remember Lou Holtz had somebody asked him the question. The great coach from Notre Dame for years, right? And I loved watching Notre Dame growing up because I'm from Indiana. And I respected the heck out of him, what he did with that program. And I remember him asking, he said, what do you think the difference is between young men today versus young men when you were coaching? And he said, it's very clear. He said, the young men today are taught to talk about their rights. He said, the young men when I coach were taught to talk about their responsibilities. And that struck me, Stewart, like a lightning bolt. I was like, oh my gosh, you're 100% right. And so once again, I'm not trying to put blame on a younger generation saying better, worse, whatever. I'm just saying for all of us, and that's part of, I try to take that for me and my friends and share, like, listen, that's for us to share that information with them, because somehow along the line, it didn't get passed on with all that other information. It got lost in that sea of information. And I think that's a piece that, once again, it helps them, and it's our future, right? Whether it's child, grandchildren, neighbor, friend, church member, business person, whatever it is, because, here in the U.S. especially, I know my time across, and overseas, I love the fact that most of the folks there I talk to talk more about interdependence. Here in the U.S., we talk about independence.
Yeah. Because
we love our independence, but the reality is we're an interconnected society. Nobody functions in a vacuum. So,
right.
So it's like, I think having more of those discussions with that generationally, makes a big difference for everybody. So,
and our responsibilities inside our community.
Yep.
Yeah. And that can start with family and ripple out from there.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
We could do a whole other podcast series on that topic.
Yes. I would agree.
All right, let's talk about money and finance and stuff. Successful people usually, and one of the things we coach here is that entrepreneurs should not, they shouldn't have all of their wealth tied up into their startup or anything like that. So we like to find out, again, with no numbers or even specific recommendations, how successful people invest their personal wealth, their investable capital. we're looking for asset classes here, real estate, crypto, stocks, bonds. Are you just really excited about insurance, annuities? How do you approach your personal investing?
Is anybody really just excited about insurance annuities? I mean, not that
the salespeople are.
Yeah, they're just. Well, to your point, for me, I mean, I'm mainly a stocks and bonds kind of guy for me. But then I also like investing in businesses that I can touch, that I can feel like I can make a difference to. And then once again, I was taught early on that, you have something that when you use the word invest, I think sometimes people forget that word has a broad definition, right? Sometimes you invest, but your return isn't necessarily all about capital, right? It's not all about money. So for me, one of my investment vehicles is I started a film production company a few years back, mainly because my oldest son passed away 4 years ago. And he and I loved talking about films. We loved talking about movies, and we had always talking about doing that together. He was a musical artist. And so I had done some business in that world myself. And so after he passed, I said, you know what? Well, what's a way I can sort of do something that I can enjoy, that I felt like it connected my heart to him while I was doing it. So I went out and searched out a couple of filmmakers, and I said I wanted it to be a broad spectrum. I wanted there to be folks of color. I wanted women. I wanted older people. I wanted younger people. I didn't want it to be any particular mode, but I just wanted people who were telling a good story that was creative, that I thought it had resonated. So that started with that first film with a very young filmmaker who ended up winning a lot of awards. Fast forward 1 on 5 years, our latest film from that company was just in the voting for an Oscars for a short film award, and has won over 20 awards and shown all over the world. So for me, that's part of my investment. Is I don't necessarily look at it to get money back out of it. If we do, that's great. But I invest in that because it feeds my soul. It feeds what I know is something for my son. And then I always make sure that any of those productions either has his likeness in it, his character, his name as a character, or the last film, the whole film was just dedicated to him. So being able to know that, he never saw his 21st birthday, but yet people in London, England are seeing his name come across the film screen. It lights up my heart. So that's part of my investment too.
That's cool. That's cool. Okay. That's good. That's Rich. I'm sorry that you had to go through that too.
Yeah, it's not something I would ever wish on anybody, but I just, I always try to, my wife and I talk about the BS of things. I know BS means something for everybody. It's something different for other people. For us, it means a bright side. But we always try to look at the bright side. And the bright side is we always look back at the fact that we had him to begin with, because, there's of all the people on the planet, for me to have the joy of having him at all, because he could have never been born. Right. So as much as I miss him, and I wish he was here every day, I know it was a blessing that we got to have him for the 20 years we got to have him. And it was a blessing that his siblings got to experience him as well. So, but like I said, that the film company for me has far and exceeded any thought I was ever going to have of success on that. And I now have filmmakers from around the world reach out to me because they've seen our films, and we've had award-winning actors that have starred in these movies, and just way better than I thought it was going to be. So
that's really significant. That's great. All right, we're coming towards the end. I got one last question. If you had one nugget of advice for somebody that perhaps you're mentoring, or somebody who would just like to follow in your footsteps, what would that be?
I mean, I would say it's tough to distill 50 some odd years of one nugget, but I would say the thing that strikes me most over the last couple of years of my career is focus on being relentlessly hospitable, right? I think the challenge is people so focus on the promise versus the delivery. And the reality is, if you focus on, I don't care what you're doing, if you're in healthcare, if you're in sales, if you're in something else, if you are spending 3 times as much energy on what you're providing to the person that you're delivering to, you don't have to spend all the other energy trying to get new people. Believe me, you will get more people. I think too many people are taught to talk about the promises and forget about the delivery side, right? And that can go for business and that can go for personal, right? I try to do what I say I'm going to do. And if I'm not going to do it, I'm going to tell you I'm not going to do it. And I think that that's something that has served me well. And I think it serves most people well. And I know for a fact in this day and age, it sets you apart because too many people tell you something they're going to do and they do not follow through at all, or they don't follow through nearly to what they promised to do. So yeah, delivery over promise.
Yeah. And that's hard. I think, especially when you're younger, and most organizations will separate sales from execution. And you got the young person out there who's, they say, hey, can we do this? And they were told, yeah, we can do it. And so they go out and sell it. And then it doesn't happen. And a lot of times that creates frustration. They'll leave that company, but they feel like they got burned. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Focus on it. I love it.
I've left great opportunities over my career because people wanted me to either say something or train someone else to say something that I knew was fraudulent. And I'm like, I'm sorry, it's not worth it to me to do that. Because I always look at it as if that's my mother or my grandmother sitting across that table, that patient's desk, that office, how would I want them to be treated? And I think if we thought more like that, there would be a lot less problems and a lot less areas for all of us. So
there would. If people would just do what they say they would do.
Absolutely.
Well, Sean, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I know you're incredibly busy. If someone wanted to reach out to you, having watched this podcast, how would they do that?
There's a couple of modes I'm on LinkedIn under M. Sean Agnew. So you got to put the M in there, right? Some say it's for motivation. Some say it's for mother. I don't know. And then also same with the website, mseanagnew.com. Yeah. And they can reach out to me through there as well.
Okay. Well, we'll make sure both of those links are in the show notes. And once again, thanks for taking of your time and the nuggets of wisdom that you've shared with us today. And thank you to the audience for watching another episode of the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity podcast. Be sure to check back and watch our next episode. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity podcast. If you'd like to be a guest, visit growthgraceprosperity.com/guest. We'd love to hear your story.